Friday night, it's just gone 7 o'clock, and as always, it's the Friday night football pitch with myself, Cammy McDonald, and my illustrious co-host, Mr. Dennis Newell. Just the two of us tonight, no guests with us tonight, but that'll be back to normal from next week. But it gives Dennis now a wee bit more time to talk some of the things that have been happening this week, and it's been a busy, busy week. Rangers lose again, Manchester United appoint a new manager. It's a two-horse race at the top of the SPL. So much going on. Dennis, good evening. How are we?
Good evening, Cammy. I'm fine, thanks. And yourself?
I'm absolutely smashing, mate. A busy week, just a 4-day week at work this week, but still been a busy week.
Well, I've got that every week, and I'm still busy.
Well, I took the Monday off because Washington Commanders had a game on Sunday night that was only on Sky, so I couldn't get a chance to watch it, so I wanted to watch it live. Probably the highlight of the sporting week, probably the highlight of the sporting year, but that's another thing, by the by, anyway. Folk don't tune in here to watch me talk about Washington, Dennis.
No, maybe no. I think it helps, so if you know what you're talking about. I don't. Well, I suppose that's the same with football, but in American football, I'm really, really a million miles away from it.
Yeah.
So, it's been an interesting week, as we were talking about briefly before we come on.
Yeah.
A lot of ups and downs. I'll tell you what, though, I would say right now it's an interesting week, because if everything was hunky-dory and all the matches were top-notch, we would have nothing to complain about. Whereas I'm just saying, is that a bottle of wine you were swigging there?
It was indeed, yeah. Yeah, class, mate, class.
How uncouth is that?
Hey, listen, at least I switched the mic off to drink it, so there we are.
Yeah, so the thing is, there's been a lot of entertainment and ups and downs, as we mentioned earlier, but I don't know where you want to start, Cammy. You want to start with our games last week?
I think we'll talk about the games during the week. Obviously, Celtic expectedly winning. Rangers probably expectantly defeat. So I think a lot of people had that as a result, and except the bookies, as we discussed earlier on. I think the bookies got that one badly wrong. They made Rangers odds-on favourite for that game, and thankfully I made a few quid out of that one.
Yeah, but I mean, you mentioned that to me earlier today, and I was really quite surprised when you said that Rangers were 3-1 favourites to win that game. And yeah. I just don't know how they've managed that. Maybe that's, I don't know. I've never seen odds like that in my life, because of the way Rangers have been performing and the way, obviously, the good what would you say, results that Aberdeen have had throughout the year. I don't know where they've got that from. But having said that, as you say, there's a few people cashed in it, and good luck to them, because you don't often beat bookmakers. Yeah.
Aye.
So yeah, a good one in that front.
Celtic. Well, as I say, I got them at 5-2. So I mean, that was astonishing odds.
Yeah, I know. Well, if we go back to Sunday games, or even go back to Saturday games, because we're just talking about the Celtic and Rangers games on the Sunday. But Saturday's games gave us Aberdeen beating Dundee United, which again was a good 3 points.
Yeah.
I think they found that tough, but Dundee United are not an easy team to beat. Ross County beating Kilmarnock, not a big surprise, but 2-1 to Ross County is a good one. And Dundee going down 2-1 to St Johnstone. I actually thought that was a bit of a shocker, but St Johnstone obviously battling for their life. Great 3 points.
Yeah.
Then you went into the Sunday matches, and very interesting. Hibs against Hearts. I don't know if you watched it, Cammy.
No, I haven't even seen the highlights, to be honest. It's one of the games, as I say, Sunday. I had other things in my mind on Sunday, as I say, and I got to sleep on the Sunday afternoon where that game was on.
Yeah, a good match. Yeah, decent match. So there's a great atmosphere. I think what we're finding as well is the supporters are turning out for these games, because there's a lot at stake. Neither of the two of them have looked as if they've got what it's going to take to get up into that top 6 spot before too long. All the chances that they're going to get are going to disappear.
Yeah.
So yeah, one each probably. I would say maybe what would you expect? I think we discussed it last week, and
Yeah,
our minds were thinking Hearts, but Hibs have still got the same problem. And I said this last year, and it's only when you listen to other people, they're actually saying it as well. The Hibs defence has been shambolic for the last 2-3 years.
Yeah.
And I just don't know why they haven't. Well, they have tried to address it, but they've not brought in the right personnel to do it. And they're still at 6s and 7s all over the place. And that will create a major problem throughout this season, because they've brought people in to hopefully change it. It's not working yet. And they're going to have a hard shift to get themselves off the bottom of that league. So, yeah, an interesting one.
It's not very often you see both Edinburgh sides bottom of the table, but that's what it is at the moment. Obviously, both sides at the bottom on 6 points apiece.
Yeah.
And yet, I think Rod, last week, he picked the draw. I think, obviously, I went with Hearts. But as I say, he picked the draw, and that's as a Hearts supporter. So fair play to him for getting that one right. Yeah. Probably the result maybe suited neither side. Both sides really would have needed the win, I think, as you say, to get away for the foot of that table. But probably the one each draw, as you're saying, if that's a fair result, then, and a fair reflection of the game, it gives both sides a chance. And obviously, Critchley's done reasonably well, I think, unbeaten as Hearts manager, but Hibs really need to think about where they're going.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Hearts looked as if they had most of the possession. There's no doubt about it, but you just felt they just seemed to be struggling a bit to actually get the goals that was required. And you were in the 86th minute before the young lad, I think he's only 17, which was quite refreshing to hear him getting interviewed after it and thinking he's got school and a paper to do the following day, which was incredible. You don't see that now. You normally see them lining up with their haircuts and their tattoos, all ready to go somewhere that God knows where they go. But the bottom line is, you don't get a boy coming talking to you after 17 years of age, getting the equaliser. And you would have thought, actually, it was a final of a cup that both the teams were playing in Sunday. It really, really was of that kind of statement that we're both trying to make, that they were better than the way they've been. There was 20,000 at the game, Cammy, so that speaks volumes alone. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it was good. And as I say, it was refreshing to see a Scottish youngster coming and doing well in that particular match.
Yeah, obviously he's too young yet to get tattoos, so maybe come his 18th birthday that'll change.
Yeah, you never know. So the other game that was Motherwell 0, Celtic 3. A convincing win for Celtic. It took them a wee while to get going, but at the end of the day, I always felt that it was only a matter of time. You're finding it that after half an hour, you could see it was actually starting to go Celtic's way a bit more, and they struggled a wee bit, huffed and puffed, but not as much as they did against Dundee, which will come on in a minute on Wednesday night. Convincing win, there's no question of doubt about it. They've got the firepower in all departments, and obviously they've done the job. The other game was Rangers beating St Mirren 2-1, and again, you're finding that there was nothing in this, in my eyes, that where I basically said Rangers are going to turn the corner. I watched that game, and there's nearly 49,000 at that game, and I'm thinking, how long is that going to last? They were all moaning about how bad it was, and they've still won the game. So I think now that what you're finding is the Rangers supporters are actually realising, I'm not paying money here to be served up this rubbish. And that's basically what that game was to me, and when I looked at it. And then, of course, we had the big hits on Wednesday night. Did you see any of the games on Wednesday night, Cam?
No, again, works obviously means that it's very difficult for me to catch them.
Yeah. Well, interesting. As you know, obviously, you've seen the results. And you just look at that, and we'll start with the top one, which was Celtic. They huffed and puffed. They really did. And I'll tell you what the difference was. Celtic going into that game against Dundee rested players, right?
Yeah.
And when you look at it, they had, I'm just trying to think in my head who was actually playing. Trusty was playing instead of, Carter Vickers was back in the team, and Scales was left out. And I thought that's a good combination with Trusty and Carter Vickers, just to see how they go, right? Then you had Taylor, who I think still struggles as a left back for me with Celtic. And of course, the other deficiency, which we talk about when he gets in the Scotland team, is Ralston. I don't think they are top notch when you're looking at what Celtic are maybe looking to say, well, we need to get to the next level as well, which is good performance in the Champions League. Palmer, Bernardo, jury's still out with me, and Yang, John. I don't think that they again are what's going to take Celtic forward either. And that change, the three changes I've just that they made there, Bernardo, who's played quite a bit, Palmer, and Yang John, the three of them just didn't seem to do enough for that Celtic squad to be thinking we can win this quite comfortably. And it was only when Johnston come on for Ralston, Tate come on for Bernardo, and Maeda come on for Palmer. What a difference it made.
Yeah.
You believe the difference. And I'm then looking at that and I'm going to myself, well, I'll tell you what, if that's you playing people off the bench, where we've always said that the bench was strong at Celtic, I would question that now, because it didn't produce very much for Celtic when you look at them turning that into a really easy result. It did in the end of the day, 2-0, but it was the 60th and 67th minute that they got their two goals and one of them was a penalty. So I look at that and I go, oh, you need to keep strengthening that squad at Parkhead, otherwise you will get found out big time. And of course, the reason that Celtic are getting away with it, and I'll use the word get away with it, is other teams I don't think have a right go at them other than Aberdeen. And I do believe the fact that Rangers are so poor now, they are having a good time of it. But mark my words, and I said it maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, they are not convincing winners in all the departments that they're actually playing at this moment in time. Although they are head above the rest of the teams in the Premier League, because they don't need to so much grind it out. They can get the result.
Aberdeen.
Yeah. So, there was an element there where I was a wee bit disappointed in watching that game. They were a bit flat, but when it was changed, you could see there's the big guns back into the team, and Celtic were a different team. And I think Johnson, when he come on, it may have been his first touch. If not, it was very, very early, and he ended up scoring. That's 2 goals back to back. Another one, Cammy, was Dundee United going down to Motherwell. Stuart Kettlewell's doing a great job, and obviously the League Cup semi-finals in the weekend, so that will take him into that game with a lot of confidence, especially with Dundee United, who I think are going fairly well.
Yeah.
And another surprise result, and I really did think this was a surprise, especially on the grass at Tynecastle, was Kilmarnock beating Hearts 2-1. And really, that to me is maybe, just maybe, a warning shot for Hearts to think with Neil Critchley that this is not going to be just as easy as maybe him just getting the job. With Kilmarnock there basically scoring in the 58th minute and the 63rd minute when they were down 1-0, and you would have thought at that point, come out in the second half, Hearts, and go and get back.
Yeah, get an early goal, and that's it.
Never happened. So Derek McInnes basically got them obviously at half time and turned them around, which is a great result for Kilmarnock. And there's a poor one again. Ross County with at home to Hibernian, and it was nothing each. I could imagine that'd be like paint drying up there.
Neither of these sides can afford that. As we say, there's too many sides at the bottom of the table dropping too many valuable points, and
you're right.
Obviously Ross County, Hearts, Hibs, as it turns out just now, as I say, these sides are all, you can't really be watching over your shoulder if you're Hibs or Hearts, but obviously Ross County are watching over their shoulder for what's coming up behind them. And the bottom of that table, I think when we take away the top two, the bottom of that table is going to be cutthroat, I think, for sure. The way things are going at the moment. Kilmarnock's starting to string a couple of results, couple of performances together as well. St Johnstone are picking up an odd win here or there. As I've said to you, as I says on Friday night, last Friday, I've been very disappointed so far with St Mirren. I think to me they've been one of the major disappointments along with Hearts this season, in terms of they just haven't kicked on at all in the way many of us expected, whether that's down to their very short European adventure or not, I don't know. But that bottom six is going to be cutthroat, I think, all the way to the end. And as I say, all we can really hope for at the top of the table is that Aberdeen and keep it on Celtic's coattails for as long as possible, and maybe give Celtic a run in towards the end of the league title, because they're not going to get that for Rangers. I think Rangers are going to end up isolated in third place. So all we're really going to have is going to be that bottom six in terms of excitement, I think, Dennis, this season.
Well, you're talking 6th and 7th spot is only 1 point between them. Kilmarnock and 6th, and St Mirren in 7th spot. There's only one there. But you see, to be honest, Cammy, 3 points is a massive result now for any of the teams that are down there, because St Johnstone, although they get beat with St Mirren, have won their 2 previous games.
Yeah.
And that, although they get beat, has got them in a position where they're sitting in 9th spot. So, whereas, that's 6 points. If they hadn't won the games, I know it's hypothetical, but if they hadn't won the 2 previous matches, then they would be sitting down near the bottom. So, for St Mirren to beat St Johnstone 3-1 was an absolutely brilliant result for St Mirren.
Yeah.
Even though they have been poor, and again, the 3 points onto them when they would have been sitting in 8 has taken them up 11 points, and they're sitting in 7th spot now. So, you look at that and you say to yourself, there's very little. I would even say Hearts and Hibs with 6 and 7 points. You would say 2 victories, and you're up there. 12 points gets you a 6th spot, and that's 2 results that Hearts need. So there's so much to play for, and I think 3 points is quite a lot. You would never ever make a decision on who would get. Well, I certainly wouldn't, and who will get relegated in this division, because there's such a long way to go. And as we've just talked about, St Mirren and St Johnstone, it's like the toss of the coin. Who's going to win that one, especially on the points you mentioned about St Mirren being poor at points. And St Johnstone, just to me, I would have said at the start of the season, would be the team that's probably look most likely to go down. And yet, before St Mirren's match, they had won 6 points. The other game we're going to talk about now is Wednesday night, was Aberdeen versus Rangers. Did you see any of that, Cammy, or were you just looking at highlights or what?
No, again, just highlights, Dennis. As I say, the problem I have, as you know, is obviously I'm in my bed most nights for 7:45, 7 o'clock at the very latest, which, as I say, is why I ended up taking the Monday off, because I knew Sunday was going to be a very late night for me. So in terms of that, it's very, very difficult for me to catch up with games live as they happen. So odds and sods, and catch a wee bit of highlights in the morning on YouTube and things like that, So that's pretty much by and large what my football experience has been this season, other than when I was on holiday. So I've obviously spoke to folk in work and things like that, and I mean that Aberdeen were well worth their victory from what I'm led to believe. I think Rangers obviously missed Kearney, who was injured for the game, and seemingly I think Rangers had a couple of players on the bench as well who weren't 100%, but still managed to feature on the bench, and didn't obviously do the 90 minutes. So Rangers squad, as I think I sent you a text last Saturday, it's very much League of Nations. It's very, very much players who very few years have heard of until they arrived at Rangers, and then they get the big fanfare and things like that, before Rangers sign them. But these are players who I think appear to be unwanted at other clubs, or certainly not turning and performing at other clubs. And very much Rangers seem to get players middle of their career and end of their career, as I kind of said last week, and I was corrected during the week that Rangers have had I think Count Bassey, or Calvin Bassey, obviously, in terms, I think it was one of the last players who Rangers sold on for decent money, having bought him for very little. But beyond that, the Rangers squad, there doesn't seem to be any direction at all at Ibrox in terms of behind the scenes, on the park. It would appear that in terms of they've been a very, very badly run club just now as well. Off the park, financially, they're decimated. £17 million loss last season. So things just do not seem to be going very well at all for Rangers. And when you look at what's happening at Celtic Park, and latterly at Aberdeen, who seem to be going from strength to strength. Rangers are going to be playing catch-up, I think, for the next year or two.
I look at it and I've seen Chelsea along the same lines where they were really, really poor, and you can go back to maybe another 3 or 4 years back, and Chelsea were struggling. It wasn't just yesterday, and they can throw money at it. And that sometimes is the way out. Rangers don't have that money, but Clement has actually spent £10 million, or the club has, on that squad.
To make the club worse than what they were when they inherited it.
To
make the squad worse than what they inherited.
Aberdeen's only spent £2.5 million. So he has been rattling his gums, even as recent as today, to think that the board of directors are going to be putting up with this because he reckoned that he's in there for the long haul with a 2-year plan. Right? He's very confident. These words are, he's very confident the Rangers hierarchy will keep faith in him, even though they're going into the semi-final on the back of a defeat with Aberdeen. He's spoken to the board, not spoken to the board recently. And this is what worries me. When you've got a manager who actually, he's quite delusional actually, the bulk of the things that he makes points on, Cammy, he is delusional.
Yeah.
That he believes that the board are going to give him the backing. Now, see that's normally a kiss of death.
Yeah.
See, when you hear this on a Friday night, you normally find after the next result or the weekend, that manager's out the door. So I would like somebody at Ibrox that's actually in the position that employed him to come out and make a statement and say, this is a long-term exercise. Yes, we're red rotten now, but we believe he will do a job for us. I'll tell you why they'll not do that, because the seats will be empty because the punters are not putting up with us. Because Dennis, the product on the park, they want to see a quick fix. They're never going to get a quick fix. And the man in the helm should not have been in the position. I would say now, I think they are actually worse under Philip Clement than Beale was.
Yeah.
I actually do. I think the football is worse. The squad of players is worse. The direction is worse. And just overall, there's nobody that you could probably give to another club of the level that Rangers are at and we'll get a game in it.
Yeah. The direction is lacking. You're saying the direction's worse. There's absolutely appears to be no direction at all at Ibrox. And what you were saying in terms of the seats being empty, I was hearing again from a Rangers supporter at work that the tickets for the semi-final have actually gone in public sale for the Rangers end. Rangers cannot sell or are struggling to sell their allocation to season ticket holders and obviously supporters clubs members and things like that, and they've had to put their tickets out on general sale. That's been unheard of the last 5 or 6 years, I think, at Ibrox, and probably longer than that, but to hear that, I think if you're a Rangers supporter, is actually quite alarming and worrying. Or if you're a Rangers director, rather, it's quite alarming and quite worrying to see that you cannot sell out your tickets for a semi-final towards the sources that you would normally sell your tickets at. So yeah, you're right. The fans are starting to dwindle. It's gone back to the days before Graham Souness, when Rangers couldn't sell out their ground, couldn't sell out their allocation. And you know yourself, you'll speak to Rangers supporters who say, well, I was there when we only had 10,000 fans. For every Rangers fan who says that, Ibrox must have been sold out about 6 times for every Rangers fan you spoke to who was there when Rangers only had 10,000 fans. But it's very, very alarming, I think, what's happening at one of our biggest clubs in terms of the lack of direction. And as I say, financially, the club's absolutely knackered. So I think Clement might well be safe. And I think the reason he might well be safe is there's every possibility Rangers can't afford to sack him and pay out his contract.
Well, again, I think back, when we talked about this last week, that the director of football is shambolic. There is absolutely no question about it. You can look back on Ross Wilson, and that's where it started to. snowball,
Yep.
the effect of bad players coming into the club. Wee Roscoe wasn't daft. He got out of the place before anything happened drastic. Now you've got the new guy in. His name, I can't really remember. It doesn't bother me because the bottom line is he's another invisible person that you don't see, faceless. And that's what the board of directors are now. I think they're faceless. I actually think that they don't know what the answers are. So they're probably not making any statements because they're incompetent in the way that they are actually seeing the future for all these hard-working supporters who plough millions into that club. And the bottom line is that they're getting shortchanged for it.
Yeah.
And I don't see why the board of directors should have all the benefits that go with running a club as big as Rangers and actually producing the rubbish that we're seeing on the pitch.
Yeah.
I'm not saying this with ease. They are quite atrocious, Cammy.
Mm-hmm.
It's the worst Rangers team I can ever recall, or squad of players that I can recall. And I'll tell you what, when I watched it in Sky during the week, James McFadden was doing the commentary. Now, he played up front. Good, decent enough player, really good, right? And the amount of times that he picked up on where Dessers was not in the right position for a ball to come in the box. He's like, what's he doing at the back post? Why is he not in that box? Why is he not making that chance? And you could see there was even frustration in the commentary, as if to say, I'd love to be able to have a tannoy here. We just tell you, move into that spot, move it.
Yeah.
This guy's getting paid a fortune. And I've rattled my gums about how much he's been getting for the last 6 weeks. And I'm getting fed up with the fact that he keeps getting played. And he is a common denominator for the fact that he's just not able to get involved.
Yeah.
And you look through that as well. Tavernier, I believe, as a captain now, doesn't really perform as a captain. He was looking as if he was going in the summer. And the best thing I think that could have happened to Rangers was that he went. Because he's a shadow of the player he was last year.
But if you get rid of Tavernier, I think a lot of Rangers supporters want to see him moved on. You know, feel that perhaps the time is up and things like that for him. You're losing, well, one of your main attacking options if you're Rangers. You know, and as you say, that they've got very little up front in terms of what Dessers offer them, and it's right that they're just a squad with no direction. They're a squad we know. It almost appears no unity. I think because, as I say, there's such a squad of nations. As I say, you know, you look across the road at Celtic. Yeah, Celtic have got a few players from other countries and a large majority, but they've got 3 or 4 guys here for Japan. You know, so it's not just a case of one guy, you know, who doesn't speak English. There's 3 or 4 of them, so they can get by in terms of communicating with each other and obviously breaking into the talking to the rest of the players. There just appears to be a complete disunity at Rangers, from the top to the board to what's on the park, as you say, to the manager, and the club just appears to be in complete and utter shambles. And I don't know what it's going to take to get it back on track, because you're talking about a major overhaul. And again, I hate bringing it back to a sport that obviously you know very little about in terms of American football, but you can see the Washington Commanders flag behind me. For 30 years, Washington had been in the doldrums, and they got a new owner, new coaching staff, new direction, everything else, but it's taken them 2 or 3 seasons to kick things on. And that's, I think, what it's going to have to be at Rangers in terms of a complete overhaul from top to bottom to turn that club around.
Yeah, but you just need to look even at what he made as a change was the boy that plays in the left wing, which is Barjami.
Mm-hmm.
He scores a right good goal, Cammy. He cuts inside, opportunist. He beats a couple of players and he just pokes it into the far corner of the Aberdeen net. Rangers are back in the game. They actually had a good 20 minutes just after half time. Now, if they could sustain that for 90 minutes, I would think, oh, they're okay. But it was 20 minutes. That was it. That was it, the whole 90 minutes. Now, what does he do with the boy that scores the goal? who's looking lively then, the team's got a bit of a lift, he's probably got a spring in his step. He goes and substitutes him after 76 minutes.
Yeah.
And I'm saying to myself, what did you see in that to take him off? Seriously. I mean, he scores in the 63rd minute and he takes him off 10 minutes or so
later.
After it. And I'm thinking, what kind of management is that takes off the guy that you've been starved of goals? He produces one and you go and take him off. And I think to myself, there's something drastically wrong. I don't believe that he's actually shown me that he can manage a football team. And even again, I'll go back to Sky Sports. Chris Boyd absolutely slaughtered him at the end of it. He's done that before. And basically more or less saying, look, his time's up. Chris Sutton just says, I can't believe the rants that the man goes on. This was after he was interviewed after the game. Now, you don't normally find that these pundits are quite as, what do you say, opinionated.
I don't know. Boyd, to me, is a pundit who wears his heart on his sleeve. Okay, that sleeve's maybe blue, but as I say, Boyd definitely wears his hat on his sleeve. Sutton will say things to get a reaction. You know, at the end of the day, Sutton's one of these guys who's he's chasing clickbait regularly. You know, a lot of what he says makes sense. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. But as I say, to me, he chases clickbait. You know, but Boyd definitely wears his heart on his sleeve, and there's no doubting at all, obviously, where his loyalties lie. But and I think he's quite right to call out Rangers Football Club, that's for sure. But I think, Dennis, we're in danger here of turning it into the Rangers hour, you know, so maybe look at a wee bit.
I was going to move on to the Aberdeen team after that.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the thing, we're slaughtering Rangers and not giving credit to the side who have come down to Celtic Park and get a 2-each draw, have beaten Rangers, and I've got a League Cup semi-final this weekend to look forward to against Celtic as well.
No, so is Rangers against Motherwell. But if you look at Aberdeen, they're a breath of fresh air. They really are. I said that last week as well. And they continued it in that vein. When they played Celtic, I thought, great game. Best I'd seen for a long while. And to be honest, Rangers, when they had that 20-minute spell, I thought, wow, this is turning into a right good match. And, you know, they were unfortunate as well, Rangers, where they had a goal offside when it might have changed the game a little bit more. But they're ifs and buts. VAR is there for a reason. And whether it's, as he said, it's a toenail, it doesn't matter. It's proven that does work. And the bottom line is, you can moan all you want, but Aberdeen were worthy winners. And I look at some of their players. The boy Duke terrorised Tavernier and done that left channel for Aberdeen. Absolutely terrorised. Now, I like Duke. Now, I think he had problems and he didn't come back early for training, or he was injured or whatever. But when I watched him when he first joined Aberdeen, I thought, you're a handful. And I'll tell you what, he really was. He was a problem for Rangers. And again, whether he was injured or no, he'd taken off after 55 minutes. And I'm saying, what's happening in this? You have a good part of the game and you get taken off. Now, it may well be, that seems quite early, but it might be that he was injured. But Aberdeen, their work rate, Cammy, is outstanding. Outstanding. And you look at the boy, Devlin, at right back, and you say to yourself, why was Ralston played in that last international game when you can see Devlin plays the exact same spot and he gets up and down the park like nothing on earth and he scores and takes his chance well for Aberdeen? And I'm saying to myself, why was he not playing the last international? You brought him into the squad and you didn't play him. And I'm thinking, what's going on with some of these managers and the way that they're seeing the game, that outsiders can actually address it and go, why did you not do that? Now, everybody thinks they can do better than the manager. I've been there a million times. But the bottom line is, these are blatant things, Cammy. They're not rocket science. Mm-hmm. So Aberdeen thoroughly deserved the victory. And they continue in that vein now where basically none really looking as if they're going to stop them. And I'll tell you what an interesting game it will be on Sunday.
I think that'll be a tremendous game on Sunday, you know, and if Aberdeen carry on the form they showed when they came down to Celtic Park, and indeed obviously during the week there, because many folk I think would have thought that they would have lost to one, if not both halves of the Old Firm, but they've carried on. They're great form. They're scraping results, getting results when it matters. You know, what a 1-0 victory over Dundee United, a 3-2 victory over Hearts. It's not that they're blown sides away, but to me that's more admirable, the fact that they're in there for 90 minutes and they're getting that result irrespective, and I fully expect Aberdeen to give Celtic a really, really, really good game on Sunday, and I don't think I'd be at all surprised if Aberdeen managed to get the result and get into the League Cup final, where in all honesty, again, I don't think I'd be surprised if they're facing Motherwell.
The thing is, though, that Celtic did rest some of their players, as I mentioned right at the start, so they'll be a bit fresher. I think you might find that Aberdeen have got a lot of youngsters on their bench, Cammy.
Yeah.
And I've seen the changes that was made the other night, and I actually thought, as much as I've said the Celtic substitutes are not as strong as I would have liked any of the Old Firm to be having on their bench, I still look at it and I go, I don't think Aberdeen have got that. Now, we're talking Wednesday to Saturday. It's not much of a rest for the Aberdeen boys. And I'll tell you what, they put an awful lot of work Saturday. Celtic and Aberdeen Saturday.
That's it. Sorry. Yeah.
And I look at that and I go, it's maybe too close for them.
Yeah.
And I just think Celtic might have the fresher legs because there was players rested, and maybe that was the ploy. If it is, great. You can afford that luxury. If you can still win 2-0 and you've rested 4 of your players, it would be looking at a game on Saturday against Aberdeen. Yeah. And that's the way to be looking at it. You need to be stronger and fitter. And with Aberdeen putting so much into the game against Rangers, that could be the element I'm thinking could be the difference between the two teams. And I think Celtic will win that. And I'll be tempted to say comfortably, Cammy, although on the league performances and the way Aberdeen's been now, I would get my fingers burnt, I think, if I'd went to the bookmakers with it. But if you look at it, and you take in the Sunday game, you've got Motherwell, have got Rangers, and I'm looking at the league positions now, and Rangers have got 19 points, and Motherwell sitting below them on 16 points. I wonder if Stuart Kettlewell would prefer to be playing them in the league rather than the cup.
Yeah. I don't know. I think if Motherwell can get to a final of a cup, it's probably a better result for them. I think Kets would get to the final at Hampden over a league win. I don't think they're going to be looking over their shoulder. I don't think they're going to be watching for relegation. I don't think they're going to be chasing Europe. I think they're very much going to be looking at somewhere between 5th and 9th. That's a mid-table mediocrity. And to me, if you finish in the bottom of the top 6 or the top of the bottom 6, it doesn't really matter. So no, I would rather Kets. I think Kets would prefer to get the result against Rangers tomorrow. On Sunday.
Well, they'll still have the opportunity. There's only 3 points between them anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, Rangers will soldier on as it looks. I really expected maybe something positive coming from the board, even as a backup. I've nothing against the manager on the front that says, yeah, that's the way we're going to go, but at least come out and say it rather than the man himself, who is quite delusional, thinking this is the way. And he's standing alone with it. He's not getting the backing of the board. And I find that is quite pitiful, really, that he is out there and he's getting hammered and slaughtered. And I don't think he's up to the job, but you're looking for your board of directors to say why they feel he's up to the job. Come out and help him or get rid of him. That's a choice. But if you're going to get rid of him, please don't get Derek McInnes in, because he will make no difference to you. I think he's punching above his weight, even at Kilmarnock. And I know they got into Europe last year, but I don't think that's the right move if they do go down that road. The only thing I would say is, yes, he's Scottish, and yes, he knows the game, and that might be a plus factor. But I don't think when you're looking at Rangers, the size of them, that would be my first choice anyway. I don't know who I would be looking at in terms, obviously, to replace Clement. I'm sure there's a couple of chimpanzees at Edinburgh Zoo would feel they can do as good a job, but right. We can only wait and see what happens with that one. But no, as I say, I think Clement might well remain in the job by default. A bit like who we're going to talk about next in terms of Eric Ten Hag, who obviously kept the Manchester United job by default for quite a while there, until obviously he got dismissed last week. And Manchester United, when we talk about how much of a club in disarray Rangers is, I think Manchester United are the English equivalent
possibly in an even worse state than what Rangers are up here, Dennis.
I think that goes without saying, Cammy.
That was seamless there, by the way. That was almost that was.
You surprised me because I thought we were staying in Scotland anyway, but never mind. We've jumped out of the border and we're still not finished up here, but we'll get.
No, I know. We'll come back to up here.
Yeah. Well, I think we should finish
just where we're talking
as
about
far as Rangers
Street,
is concerned. Yeah, we just hope that they turn the corner, to be honest. I don't like to see any of the old firm not up there challenging and producing good stuff. So I know I can be really negative and having a go at them, but they've really got to turn the corner at some point.
Yeah.
Man United probably turning the corner. It's just been a joke. Seriously, they are sitting in 14th spot with 11 points. Who would have thought that you would see the day in this day and age with the money that's been spent on Man United sitting with 11 points after 9 games, 11 points. Nah, it's not good enough. I thought they would have changed earlier, to be honest. I just don't believe that this board either coming in here. Maybe they hung on. They beat Brentford on the 19th of October. Then you look at it and think, oh, maybe turn the corner. And then they get an absolute doing in my head, although it's only 2-1 against West Ham.
Mm-hmm.
That's not acceptable. And the supporters, Manchester United, don't accept that either. That club is in the top half dozen in the world, and you just can't be sitting in 14th spot. What a climb they've actually got to get to the top of the league. You look at it now, and what you've got up there is Man City with 23 points.
Yeah.
That's a handful of games they're needing to catch up there.
Mm-hmm.
So, you look at it, even if you look at Aston Villa in 4th spot, when you're looking at Champions League sort of cut-offs, 18 points. That's more than a 2-game swing.
Yeah.
And I can't see at this moment in time where they're going to get to. Now, having said that, they've appointed Ruben Amorim from Sporting Lisbon, and he will be joining the club on Monday. I think they have a game tonight, Sporting Lisbon, and he might be taking charge of that. Not 100%, but I think during the week when he was a candidate and they were talking about if he was going to be appointed, it would be the start of the week. And that's what's coming in. He's 39 years of age. He's not 40 yet till next week, I think. I think if he's done well at Sporting Lisbon, I think he might come in and do a job, the same as Liverpool made the change. But the problem is at Liverpool, it wasn't broken, so there wasn't a lot to fix. No. Here it is broken at Manchester United. So they've got a lot to fix. And I think sometimes when he's maybe that age, has he got enough in him to get these big-time players turning around and actually giving them a good backing?
Yeah.
No, that's where the jury's out for me in this one, because some of these players, and we know that, and I've mentioned it nearly every week, Graham Potter, with his background, went to Chelsea, a really educated manager, and he got nothing out of him. Absolutely nothing. And I know for a fact that some of these players just weren't willing to roll their sleeves up and get on with it.
Yeah. I know you've said that before.
Could be a problem that you have with a younger man coming in at Manchester United. Time will tell. Again, I want to see Manchester United playing really well because they are a massive club. And over the years, I've had a lot of entertainment actually watching them. But it's slipped down now. It really is.
Yeah.
So we will see in the fixture list that they've got. They have Chelsea on Sunday at 4:30. What a big game that is for them. And of course, I might be there, but you won't be in the dugout as far as it's the following week. So the following week, he's got, I'm just checking Cammy to see who they've got the following week. I think maybe they've Leicester City.
Leicester. So Leicester again, who they beat obviously on
that's
Tuesday,
right.
during the week.
It was 5-2, I think it was, something like that. So interesting. But if you look at the top of that league, Cammy, you've got Man City. Slipped a wee bit, just not in the last 3 games, but they had a couple of draws there that made it look as if, wait a minute, they could maybe be caught. Liverpool drew the last match, Arsenal drew as well, and Aston Villa drew. So you 3 out of 4 didn't win matches, which helps Man City because they had a wee lean spell 3 weeks ago. Aston Villa, Cammy, what's your thoughts on them? Because they've been going great guns. Played 9, 18 points, and the last 6 games, they've won 3, they've drawn 3.
Yeah, and they've been out of the Carabao Cup in midweek as well. A surprising 2-1 home defeat to Crystal Palace.
Yeah.
Villa, to me, the only thing I think they could go against Villa is that they look as though they're going to get a decent run in the Champions League, and it could well be strength of squad and obviously experience that they have within that squad. But Aston Villa certainly look as though they are going to push on and maybe become the fourth club down south behind obviously Man City, Arsenal and Liverpool, or Man City, Liverpool, Arsenal, depending how they sit, you know. I think the top 4 this season is going to be the same as the top 4 last season. It's just going to be the order that might well change, and I still think Arsenal have a big say in who wins there. But Villa, to me, I've been really, really impressed with Villa. I've been impressed with the boy John Duran up front, John McGinn's in and out of games. But Villa, to me, have been one of the standouts this season. I think that they lost to Arsenal obviously in the second week of the season quite heavily, but they've pushed on from that, and I think Aston Villa definitely look like a good bet again for that top 4, and I think it's good to see Birmingham, obviously England's second city, well represented again.
Who told you they were second city? Where'd you dig that one up?
But Birmingham's England's second city, is it not?
I don't know. News
behind
to
London.
Me.
Is it no London, Birmingham, then Manchester?
No, I thought it was Glasgow.
No, it's still Glasgow's not in England.
I know that. I'm joking with you. Anyway, if you look at Aston Villa, have got Bruges on Wednesday night, all right? And I'll tell you what, I thought
they go 4 out of 4.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Bruges have played 3 and they've only won 1.
Yep.
So if you're looking at that kind of momentum, they're sitting at the top of the Champions League, right? And there's every chance that they can still get 4 out of 4 results. And then obviously in second place, and it's English teams that are dominating that now.
Yeah.
Aston Villa, Liverpool, Man City are dominating I know it's only 3 games, but they're the top 3 teams in the Champions League. So if you look at Bruges being Aston Villa's next opponents, I think the way that it's going now with Aston Villa is that is giving them a lift every time they play midweek. They're coming out of it. They're really, really, really enthusiastic about the next match coming up in the Premier League. Now, I know they didn't win the last game, but at the same time, they are on fire at this moment in time. And I don't think they are punching above your weight. You're right. There is good players within that Villa team.
Yeah.
They've been entertaining to watch. So I wouldn't write them off as certainly getting into Europe or even staying in that position where they are now, 4th. Chelsea could be a threat right enough. They're sitting in 5th. And while I just rattle my gums about that, I watched Chelsea on Sunday play Newcastle United. And I'll tell you what, I've seen one of the best goals I've seen in a long while. The boy Jackson scored in the 18th minute. Did you see it? 3 moves.
He's a decent player as well, that boy Jackson. He's done really well since he's went to Chelsea, more so this season. But he's looked good in front of goal for sure.
But the big plus for me, and he's a star in his own right, is the boy Cole Palmer. The pass that he put through for the ball to be played in for Jackson was stunning. If you get a chance, have a look at it. Absolutely outstanding. That's okay when you're sitting up above the play, but when you're down at ground level, there's players that block your vision, and for him to play that ball through for a square ball across the box, it was 1, 2, 3 goal. Absolutely outstanding. So he's been a revelation in that Chelsea team.
I was going to say, I think Cole Palmer for me is every shout have been the player of the year down south. For definite, I think he's been outstanding so far this season. I think he obviously scored 4 goals in one game 2 or 3 weeks ago. He definitely has been outstanding. He's been outstanding for club. He's been outstanding for country. And when you consider that there wasn't a place for him in the Manchester City squad when they shipped him off to Chelsea, what a revelation he's been. Obviously at Stamford Bridge for sure. And He's one of the players that you would pay to go and watch, Dennis, and there's no many of them. So yeah, fair play to him.
Yeah, definitely looking good for, as you say, potential for the player of the season. And we're just into the end of October. Teams down the bottom, Cammy, is Ipswich, and I thought they were going to give us a better shout because I looked at them as being fresh blood into the Premiership, and I really thought they could do a decent job and get themselves into sort of a 10th or 11th. They've struggled.
They're great going forward, Dennis, but they cannot defend.
Yeah,
defensively, Ipswich have looked all over the place this season. Definitely really, really good going forward. They've got the lads whose name escapes me, I'm afraid, at the moment, but he's got 4 or 5 goals for them this season. That's great telling you that. They've got a guy who looks really good and then no realising his name, but they definitely look fantastic going forward, but defensively they're at another level, and I think
the boy Hurst, are you thinking of the boy Hurst?
No.
Chaplin?
No, I can't mind his name. That'll come to me, but
Smodic.
Who?
Smodic.
No, it's not him either. No, he's got a famous name. He's got a famous surname for sure. Anyway, it'll come to me anyway. But carry on. I'll find his name in a minute or two.
Well, I can read through the team. Is it O'Shea or Phillips?
It's a wee while.
Davis, Harry Clark, Cadgis, Burgess, Chaplin. Other than that, you'll need to go to the bench for this really good player.
I know. Right, carry on.
so that
everybody's wanting to hear the Ipswich Town team, you know what I mean? Liam Delap.
All right, okay, yeah.
Liam Delap has looked absolute outstanding for them and early in the season, so he's managed to get a few goals. But as I say, defensively, they're not looking great. They're the same as many clubs. They're not getting a tune out of Calvin Phillips either. So as I say, I think if they sort out their defence, I think Ipswich will move on up a wee bit. But as things are at the moment, great going forward, but suffering for no defence.
Yeah. Well, Delap only come on 73rd minute for the boy Hurst.
Yeah. As I say, he's got a few goals this season.
Yeah. Well, obviously...
He's got 5 goals in 9 games, Dennis.
Aye. Yeah. Okay. So, disappointing from where I thought they would be. They're obviously cutting their teeth in this division, the Premiership. Wolves are the poorest team I've seen, and yet they've managed to draw there with their last match. They drew with Brighton, down at Brighton, and 2 each last Saturday.
Yeah,
up
2-0 down. 2-0 down and managed to snatch a 2 each draw with it virtually the last kick of the ball.
And that's the point I'm going to make. They were dead and buried. And I look at it and go, they've been the poorest team that I've watched in the Premier League up to now. Southampton, not far behind them. Crystal Palace always seem to get there. That victory gets them out of jail a little bit. They were sitting on 3 points till the last result, and it's got them off the bottom 3 to 6 points. So, again, in England, the same as in Scotland, a two-match swing, or 2 results, gets you well away from relegation at this moment in time. Because if you look at Ipswich, right, they can move up three places if they take the other teams around about them had to lose. So, there's not much in it at this moment in time. Southampton, 1 point. Wolves, 2 points. Ipswich, 4 points. And then Crystal Palace just out of the drop zone with 6 points. So the teams down in that area are really struggling. But up the top, brilliant. Champions League, can't wait for that. That's on this week. And as I said earlier, you're finding it's like losing the Premiership almost. And you look at the league table and it's Aston Villa, Liverpool, Man City, and you think, well, wait a minute, there's Monaco, Brest, Leverkusen. And you look down that list, it's really amazing. And I've said that all along. I really like the format of the Champions League. It really is good. So,
as you say, it's almost setting us up for that Super League, which is going to come eventually.
Yeah, just reduce that from, 36 teams we've got in these divisions?
36 to 20.
Yeah, I think you could have the Super League if you'd had it maybe same size as English Premiership, because there is teams. I mean, some of the teams at the bottom, we had this conversation briefly last week when we were trying to defend the fact of the Scottish teams not being great in Europe, with Celtic sitting in 20th spot. And then you look right down, you've got another 16 teams below them. And, you look at that and you go, well, can it be that bad? I mean, from 31 to 36, each of the teams have played 3 games and there's no points.
Yeah.
But having said that,
one of them lost to Celtic.
Yeah, Leipzig have got, I think, Celtic this week. Looking at the fixtures maybe well, they might be able to change that because they're one of the teams that are doing that. So if we look into the English Premiership and what's coming up, if that's where you want to go next.
Aye, finish England, then we'll quickly catch up on what's happening in the lower leagues up here.
Yeah, it just shows you how much I can rattle my guns, Cammy. That's 3 minutes before
nearly an hour.
I know. Newcastle have Arsenal tomorrow at 12:30. Bournemouth playing Man City. These games are 3 o'clock. Ipswich, Leicester, Liverpool, Brighton, Hove Albion, Notts Forest have West Ham, Southampton, Everton, and then at 5:30 Wolves have Crystal Palace. And on Sunday, this will be a good one, is Tottenham versus Aston Villa, and then what I think is a really big game is Man United versus Chelsea. So again, you can't beat the Premiership in a lot of ways. It really is good stuff. If we get into the
if you're not looking at Southampton, Everton, or a Wolves against so-and-so, or an Ipswich against Leicester, there's definitely fixtures there to get excited at.
There is, so no doubt about it.
But by the way, before we leave England, what a revelation this season in Nottingham Forest have been.
Yeah, well,
top 6 at the moment.
As revelation, the word you would use, they are a massively improved team.
Yeah.
Massively improved. They're sitting in 7th spot now, just having lost 1 game in the last half dozen. I did watch them a couple of weeks ago and I thought, they weren't too bad looking. It was the last 2 games have been victories. I think it was a victory as well, without going back what match it was. But I thought, hey, wait a minute, they're a vast improvement.
Yeah.
So if we're looking looking in at tomorrow's matches, St Johnstone are playing Hearts and St Mirren Ross County. I don't know. Do you think Hearts will go up to Perth and beat St Johnstone, Cammy?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I think Hearts, they need to start turning the corner. They can't afford to drop points against lower opposition, and I think you would consider St Johnstone certainly lower opposition. Then again, they lost to Kilmarnock, it would be the same, but I don't think you can ask Hearts to start turning things around. I think Critchley's obviously had the new manager bounce up, or bounce back. And then obviously came back to earth, I think, during the week with the result against Kilmarnock. So I think he needs to start turning things around, and I fully expect that to start tomorrow at Perth.
Well, it gives them an opportunity to get off the bottom of the league, because if they go from 6 points to 9, they're then sitting where Dundee are, which at least on the Saturday event would be sitting in 10th spot. And then you look at another couple, it's 11 points is what St Mirren have got. So you put 6 in that, you're sitting up there in 7th spot. It's not a mountain to climb for Hearts, and probably Hibs are the same as well. But we'll need to wait. They need to get results on the board. St Mirren have Ross County. That'll be a good tie to see. What would you say? St Mirren can keep that run up, having another victory. I think they are probably better than the results recently have shown. I know they've got issues within the club with playing staff. I think they've got 3 under the microscope now, out with the playing side of things. That is not very healthy for the club. Nothing to do with the manager, but the bottom line is some players really need to take ownership of their actions. And without getting into that in any detail, it's not a nice thing to have running about the club. And I don't know whether that's affecting their focus. I wouldn't like to think that's an excuse, but it certainly is something that's not great. On Sunday, you've got Dundee have Kilmarnock and Hibs have Dundee United. That's a real toughie for me, Cammy. Hibs going at home even to Dundee United. I can't see them getting anything out of that game.
You know something? I'm sitting listening to the 4 fixtures, and all I can hear is draw. With the exception, maybe, as I say, a Hearts going to Perth. I think the other 3 have got draw written all over them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you might be right in that point. Yeah, you might be right. If you want, we'll get into the Championship.
Yeah, we'll rattle through these ones.
Yeah, okay. There's a game on today, which is 14 minutes played or thereabouts. Wraith Rovers are drawing nothing each with Ayr United. And you have Airdrie, Hamilton, Dunfermline, Partick Thistle, Falkirk, Greenock, Morton, and Livingston have Queen's Park. What one jumps out at you in that, Cammy?
I hate to say it, and they've almost become the club of the Friday night football pitch, but again, it's the Falkirk against Morton. I went to see them last week for what I was told was probably one of their poorer performances of the season, where they quite comfortably beat Dunfermline 2-1. It was going to be whichever side made the fewest mistakes, and that turned out to be Falkirk. First goal come for an own goal. Second goal, a nice wee bit of work, but a close in, basically stabbed for inside the 6-yard box. The Fairman came back into it with a nice wee goal to make it 2-1 and could have made a game of it, but they just didn't do enough. And as I say, I think a big difference for, as I say, going to watch Clyde and watching Falkirk, the levels is there, the difference in class and the step up is definitely apparent for what I've been used to watching this season. And maybe that's why I thought Falkirk played pretty well. But yeah, as I say, I just cannot see anybody in that championship stopping them. And I think your tip to lift the championship is going to come to fruition. I don't see Livingston having enough now. I don't see United having enough. Thistle definitely don't have enough. They're just far too inconsistent. And Falkirk are the only club at all who have got any consistency. So yeah, I'd love to get along tomorrow, but I'm actually going back along to Broadwood to see Darren Young's first league game in charge of Clyde. Not Broadwood, obviously, New Douglas Park, sorry. Yeah. So I'm going along to New Douglas Park tomorrow, driving by Falkirk to go and see that. So yeah.
What about Airdrie sitting at the bottom of the league with 5 points after 11 games? I mean, Ian Preston's the man that we should be talking to about this, but they've been looking as if they're totally shambolic, Airdrie, this year.
They're just not getting results at all, are they? No. An early win in the league, they beat Wraith Rovers, first game of the season, and have gone 10 without victory since then, and haven't really looked like getting a win. 2 draws. It's just not happening for them at all this season. They need to start turning things around. It would appear that they're going to be loyal to the manager irrespective of what happens with the results. So yeah, whether they finish bottom and get relegated or whether, as I say, they don't, it does appear that the manager's going to be in a job certainly for the start of next season. So he's pretty safe, it would appear, and maybe you need that wee bit of pressure, to start getting results. And if you know your job's pretty much safe, that maybe isn't there.
Yeah, well, Cammy, it's the old thing that we often speak about, and that is the supporters. Supporters will not put up with that. Whether the board want him to be there, they're not going to sit there and accept that you're going to get relegated and you're not winning matches. People will stop coming through the gates, and see when that happens, that's when the board of directors will act. Yeah. Because they need revenue, and revenue is what makes the club survive. So if he's not getting results, there'll be no sentiment whatsoever. He'll be out the door, and it's not looking great for him at this moment in time.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on to the next division, we've got League One, and the fixtures we've got is Dumbarton Cove Rangers, 2:00 kickoff. Alloa Annan, Arbroath Stenhousemuir, Inverness Cally Thistle, Kelty Hearts, and Queen of the South have Montrose. Obviously, we spoke before about Inverness Cally against Kelty Hearts. That'll be interesting to see if they can make any inroads with the fact that they're sitting on -3 points with the deduction they've got. Arbroath Stenhousemuir will be a decent tie, I think.
I think that's a good game, yep.
Yep, and we've got Alloa and Annan, another good game, and also Dumbarton and Cove Rangers. Sitting at the top of the league, Cove have really done well. That they're now matching the Stenhousemuir and Alloa. The 3 teams have got 17 points each, sitting at level. I think Cove is just sitting with goal difference to their advantage. So that's a tight league. We've said that before.
That's the Friday night football pitch buzz there, you know what I mean? Since we spoke about them 3 or 4 weeks ago, they've went a good run and got to the top of the table.
That's incredible, really is. Yep. Because when we had Ian Harrison on, we were talking about Cove, and we were just looking to see if they would turn the corner. But as we've said before, it only takes 3 or 4 results back to back, and you're away. And that's the difference in these leagues and the way it is in Scotland. So anyway, we're going to your domain, which is the second division. But before we do that, I think what I should do is to bring up the Scottish Cup results, if you really want to touch on that just for a minute. Because, well, last week we talked about Clyde going up to Elgin, and I fancied Clyde, right?
Yeah.
And you were doing okay until, what would you say, you went into penalties.
Well, actually, we were doing even better than that till we couldn't score a penalty, you know what I mean? With a penalty a few minutes to go, which would have won us the game.
Aye, well, you could beat 8-7 on penalties up at Elgin, which is maybe telling you that you've got a bit of work to do, which I'm sure you're well aware of it. I'll come back. Let me just come back to the Division 2 in a minute, Cammy, because I want to just run through 1 or 2 of the Scottish Cup results that would be maybe interesting in relation to that. East Kilbride beat Bonnyrigg Rose 3-1. I'm not going to go through them all. Bo'ness United, who we touched on because of the 2 Bo'ness teams, they beat Hillabeath 2-0, Bo'ness United. Irvine Meadow beat Civil Service Strollers 3-0. That's a great result. Edinburgh City drew 1 each with Janefield Swifts, and they won on 5-4 penalties. Clydebank going brilliant. I think that's a team that we need to look into a little bit more. They beat Keith 3-0. Linlithgow Rose, another strong contender at that sort of a level. Clacknacuddon, they beat Clacknacuddon 3-0. Peterhead, probably the biggest result, along with Stirling Albion in the day. Peterhead beat Lochie United 6-3. And just touching on another one was Spartans going down 2-1 to Cowdenbeath. And then finally, Stirling Albion beating the other Bo'ness team, Bo'ness Athletic, 6-0.
Yeah.
And then there was one game on the Friday, which was Three Rovers get beat 3-2 by Stranraer. There is fixtures, but we can touch on them next week. So going into your Scottish League 2 fixtures, Clyde's at the top of the list. So Bonnyrigg Rose, what do you think?
Need to turn it around. The last time that was really the start of the decline, I think, was the Bonnyrigg Rose fixture earlier in the season at Bonnyrigg, where Clyde went down 2-1. Logan Donaghy sent off for 2 bookings within 2 minutes. Sheer stupidity. And as I say, I think Clyde really need to get to a stage where they start turning things around. Darren Young's had a full week. Obviously they're part-time, so it's 2 training sessions, but he's had a chance to work with the players, a chance to get to know his squad. And I think obviously the long bus journey home as well for Elgin last week, so he'll had a few hours with the players then as well, I've no doubt. So he'll have had time to maybe push over his agenda, push over his thinking on the game and things like that, you know. So no, I would fully expect things to start to turn around from tomorrow. And if Clyde don't get a result at home to Bonnyrigg Rose, then there is some serious questions need to be asked already. So I would fully expect them to turn things around and start and get a victory tomorrow.
Well, 2 results back to back, without looking at the rest of the teams, will get you up into 5th spot. And we've just spoke about Cove Rangers a minute or 2 ago. Clyde can do the same, and maybe the time is right for the new manager to come in. Also, the fact that Bonnyrigg Rose went out to East Kilbride last week in the Scottish Cup.
I mean, things can't get any worse.
No,
you know,
no,
they really can't get any worse. They're bottom of the leagues in Scotland. You know, the only way is up. From here, you know, so maybe they should be start playing that at home games, you know. But as I say, the only way is up for Clyde from here. And I think Darren Young, when you look at his previous managerial record, he's already won this division with Stirling Albion. He's already got them promoted. He's already done no bad, I think, with his Fife and Albion Rovers as well. So no, I would fully expect that with his experience within this division, which is something that Ian McCall didn't have, you know. McCall just didn't have the wherewithal and the nuance to get Clyde playing football that was worthy of this division. And I think Darren Young knows what's required to win it. So, as I say, I would fully expect to see things turn around very, very quickly. I'll be honest, a 1-1 draw at Elgin City is not the worst result if you forget the penalties last week. I don't think it's a bad result to go up there and get a 1-1 draw. The only thing is, obviously, we're leading for a large part of the game. But no, as I say, I think tomorrow things will start to turn. And we might see the one thing tomorrow is you'll get a wee bit of time for the fans. The fans were really starting to get McCall's back. That would be coming through onto the playing surface and the players, I think, on the park. So I think Darren Young will maybe get a wee bit of time. He'll not have the fans on his back quite so early on, and that could be a big positive as well.
Yeah. Well, interesting to see how that pans out. East Fife have Stirling Albion, Edinburgh City, Forfar Athletic, Elgin have Stranraer, and Peterhead have Spartans.
Yeah.
And I suppose that covers more or less everything that we were going to talk about. Obviously, the fixtures, just touching on that, Europa League or go to Champions League, we've got quite a few big games there. Real Madrid, AC Milan, very interesting. Celtic have got Leipzig. And as I said earlier, Leipzig have not won any of the Champions League games. So that is a big tester for Celtic.
I think Milan will be below Celtic as well, because at best they'll have won one game, I think. So, that's another thing as well. If Real Madrid beat AC Milan midweek, as I fully expect that to be the case, irrespective of what happens with Celtic, Milan will still be below them, So Celtic have got to start looking at the clubs behind them in terms if they're going to finish between that 9th and 16th spot.
Yeah. I think that's what they've all got to be doing, is looking over their shoulder.
Yeah.
So that's very interesting. Inter Milan have Arsenal.
And a great game.
Yeah. So there is good games on there. Man City, just thinking about who Man City have got, Sporting, be interesting. And then
so the new Man United manager.
Yeah, just thinking that. Yeah, and then you've got the Thursday night's games, which is Olympiacos is where Rangers are going, and all we do is you keep your fingers crossed and hope that a Scottish club can come back from there with maybe something in the bag. Just looking at where Rangers are, I think they are sitting okay. They're in 11th spot in that league. No, the worst in the world. Probably be better playing in Europe than they are actually in the Scottish Premiership. Yeah. And then you look at what you've got for the conference, and then you have Chelsea have got Noah. I think that's just a wee boy that plays around the corner. Hearts have got Heidenheim. That'll be interesting.
Yeah.
Because I just look and I say to myself, some of the teams in that division, I've never heard of them. But Heidenheim are sitting 9th in that league with having played the 3 games, and the last 2 they've won. So
and they've been doing no bad in the Bundesliga as well.
So Hearts have got their hands full with this one, I think. But Hearts are sitting in 6th spot because they've won their 2 games.
Yeah.
So there's a lot there.
There's no doubt this will be Hearts' toughest game.
Yes.
And obviously the Conference League this season, because I see Heidenheim have been doing reasonably well in the Bundesliga this season. So, I would fully expect that to be a really, really tough game for Hearts.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that sums everything up.
I was going to say, we've managed to talk for 75 minutes between just the 2 years.
Well, I rattle my gums forever. So,
yeah.
Anyway, that was interesting. Because we covered maybe a bit more than we normally would, because we started the English Premiership as well. We had to leave that last couple of weeks, but it's good to just touch base with it every now and then.
Yeah, I think with a change of manager at Manchester United, it's something we really had to look at. So, we've talked quite in depth. Got a few things coming up, guys, so we'll be able to mention them next week, hopefully, in terms of a couple of plans that Dennis and I have got for the podcast, in terms of guests to move things forward. So keep tuning in, keep subscribing, tell your pals, like the show on YouTube, and as always, it's all happening on the pitch, and we'll see you next week. Here we go. That's not happened.